Let's Take It Back, DMX, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, 1998. If you like the content, hit the subscribe button. I remember when I first bought this album, I bought the edited version. I did that a lot. I did that with Juvenile 400 Degrees. I used to get mad. And then, I had to go back and rebuy it. They wasn't trying to take no exchange. I had to rebuy the album. I'm mad I threw away all my CDs because I've got every Cash Money album, every Rockefeller album, every Rough Riders album, every Hypnotized Minds, Cash Money. I had all the albums, DVDs, all of Nightmare on Elm Street, all of that. But this album was crazy, and I didn't realize back in the day how much Ja Rule was emulating him. I was like, nah, Ja Rule's from Queens. I'm from Jamaica, Queens. He's from Hollis. But, before 50 Cent, I thought Ja Rule I thought he was the future. I said you couldn't say nothing. But I'm like, going back to the DMX, I'm like, yo, he really was emulating him, forming flattery. Bring Your Whole Crew was a crazy record. His cadences, his ad-libs, Ja Rule took. I was like, I didn't even realize how much. And then the whole praying in a concert, on the performance, and praying on the album. I'm like, damn. And he was bald because he had braids and he was bald. I said, damn, he really copied his flow. Soulja Boy voice. I said, God damn. But DMX was one of those, and I compare him to Meek Mill. People disagree with me, but I compare him to Meek Mill as far as that energy and that dog in him, and because he's just saying something real from the streets and trying to get out of it. Nowadays these kids want to stay in the streets. It's a little different time. The 90s rap, early 2000s rap. It's crazy. Swiss Beats. What? You had Swiss Beats? That's a formula. Honestly, Disconnect at first was, they were from Yonkers. So like when somebody from Queens comes out, I'm immediately on them. I'm like, you're shooting videos. Even when I watch the movie Belly, which is right in front of my building, it just resonates a little different. If you're from Harlem and then Dipset comes out, it's a different feeling. Like when 50 Cent came out, or even Ja Rule came out with Murder Inc., I'm like, I know Hollis. It's not, it's Queens. It's not, my neighborhood per se, but it's still Queens. I represent Queens to the fullest, Queensbridge. So when Nas comes out, or Mobb Deep, or even Wu-Tang, Staten Island, like it's still New York. Brooklyn rappers, Jay-Z, Biggie Smalls, R.P. Notorious B.I.G., Pop Smoke recently, resonates different. Like, oh, I know this is my hood, this is my neighborhood. So it's a different experience. But Yonkers was always just a little different, even though it's still New York. It was so far. I've never been to Yonkers until later in my life, till after he died. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm talking late 2000s, like 2015, probably the first time I've ever been to Yonkers. I've been to the 5 boroughs and stuff like that, but never been to Yonkers. So I never felt, the impact that he had. I mean, it was still New York, but again, it hits home when it's like directly towards where you're from. If you're from Queensbridge, you listen to Mobb Deep, you're from Shaolin and you listening to Wu-Tang, it resonates different. If you ever watch the Wu-Tang special, like it resonates different. You're like, oh, that's Stapleton. Like you know those places, you know what I mean? Like, or when I watch Power and I watch him on Jamaica Avenue on the Coliseum, it just hits different. But yeah, this album, I go on with the records. Like, this is around the time, if you remember 24 Hours to Live with Bad Boy, with Mace and everybody and the Lox. Like, the 90s was a great time, one of the best times in hip hop. I feel like the best times in hip hop was 95 to 02 and like 05 to 2013. Like, those are like pivotal points in hip hop and the music and the delivery and the message. And, we'll never get another DMX, never come close to it. And it was a great time. RP DMX was a great, he had his issues personally, but musically, he could not be touched and cannot be replicated, duplicated, or copied. So if you like the content, hit the subscribe button.